Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, depending on when you're listening. Welcome to another very exciting episode of the Resume Whisperer. I'm your host, JosefStetter. It's an honor and a pleasure. I want to continue with the theme to show you that I've talked individually about, sorry, and so I've been talking on my shows about the fact that you need to stand out, whether it's your resume, whether it's your interview, what's the effort that you put in. And right now, I'm bringing different experts from different industries to show you a pattern that this is what it takes to succeed. It's not just who has the most education, for example, or the most designations, or the most experience. You have to have that little bit extra. Today's guest is a gentleman by the name of Matthew Riley that has climbed the corporate ladder very, very quickly. In fact, he didn't even start in the corporate side. I'll let him tell you a little bit about that. And not only did he do the extra to get ahead in his career, but now he's the VP of a company called CNS, which builds technologies for companies around the world. So let's welcome Matthew Riley to the show.
Hi, Joseph. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure and an honor. So, Matthew, let's start with kind of if you want to tell us a little bit about your career background and kind of what are some of the things that you did to get noticed and advance in your career or kind of create opportunities for yourself?
Sure. So I started my background. You can tell by my accent, comes from the UK. When I was quite young, around 17, 18 years old, I got the chance to work for a member of parliament, and from there, did some work in the, on the public side rather than the private side. A lot of the stuff that I did at that time was more community orientated, items like that. And it was only after a few years that I made the move into the private sector, first in the UK and then elsewhere. I got the opportunity in 2019 much later on, about 5 years later on, to go and work for a company called Computer Network Systems, or CNS, as you said. CNS is a software development company founded in 1992, based in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, Bangladesh. So it's a very different location from where I'd been working previously, which was either public in the UK or private in both the UK and France. And at the time, the company, even though it was much older, was predominantly focused in those markets, was looking to expand, and so was bringing on a team of different people from myself from the UK. There was some team members from India and elsewhere to focus on international expansion. In terms of when I joined the team, it was a small team of us who were focused on that international expansion. This was pre-COVID, so we were all in a small office together, and that shows a lot about how work culture has changed very quickly. And we were looking at different opportunities, identifying different opportunities, and I think from the beginning, the way the company is structured and the way the company is organized is teamwork, effective decision making, and sticking to decisions as a team, as a collective, was very, very important. And of course, one of the things that's key to the UK public sector is that in the UK public sector, we believe in what's called collective responsibility. So collective responsibility, collective cabinet responsibilities, when a decision is made, everybody follows it. Well, in CNS and in our team, from the beginning, I found it, and as a team, we found it very important to take that collective responsibility. When we take a decision, we stick to it as a team, we take it as a team, and we follow through to the outcome as a team, whether we're successful or not. And then we own the results as a team, whether we're successful or not. And that remains an important feature of how we go.
Okay, brilliant. Well, you said something in terms as a team, whether we're successful or not. So I want to kind of for you to answer in two parts. Number one, what are the little things that you did extra to get noticed and get promoted very quickly, and then be given this opportunity with CNS? And second of all, the second part of it, what is it that you do to create a culture of team and support at CNS as a VP and as someone that has kind of direct reports and people underneath them?
Sure. So the company is a family-owned business. There is a lot of opportunity to demonstrate to the management, and we have a very effective management. Individual people's, even though it's a large organization, hundreds of people, to demonstrate individual actions and individual sort of outcomes. So even though you're approaching actions and outcomes as a collective, it's somebody's initiative, it's someone's idea forward. So I put forward some ideas regarding how we should proceed in order to enter into certain international markets. And even though we discussed them collectively, a team, and I adopted them, the ideas, one of those particular ideas was from my side, and that was successful in is landing our first international contract through a partnership with a UK-based company. The main thing is that all the team works incredibly hard, and it's difficult to stand out. When you're surrounded by such exceptional people, I would go so far as to say if people need to be in the office late hours, people sit in the office late hours because of all the time zones. We sit at different hours and we have to meet at different hours. I think the main thing that probably worked was the persistence and sticking to certain ideas, which, while they may have been unpopular or may have not been fully appreciated at the time, in the long run, they've borne out to work.
Okay, so let's first kind of take a few steps back. So, computer network systems. Tell us a little bit about what kind of projects you do. What is the technical expertise, or what is the expertise that you offer to your clients? And then I want to kind of get into how do you celebrate a successful project or a team. But let's start with kind of who CNS is, and if people wanted to use your services, what they can expect or what can be done and so forth.
So we're, as I said, software development company, primarily focused to the government sector in IT development across a range of domains, more than 20 different platforms, more than 20 different technical stacks. And we have our own purpose-built development facility, which is a 14-story tower where all of our development is done in-house by our professionals. Government contracts is one thing. There's a process, there's a procedure, RFPs. We do a lot of projects funded by the World Bank. We do a lot of projects funded by different donor agencies. We've worked for projects funded by the UK government and others. The private sector is a different ballgame. The private sector makes up less of our business, but the work that we do in the private sector revolves around the philosophy of, at a good restaurant, you don't pay for the food before you eat, you pay at the end of the meal. So we sit with our clients in the private sector, we identify their goals, we identify their targets, what is it they're actually looking to achieve with their digital transformation, what is it they're actually looking to achieve with their software development, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, whether it's anything else. And then we define deliverables, we deliver those deliverables, and then we charge. There's a lot of software development companies that take money up front, so on and so forth, that we
Okay.
don't do.
So, would you be willing to share some projects that you've already completed and kind of talk about what you guys built? Obviously, I don't need the technical jargon, but just kind of an idea of some of the level of integration or the level of technology that CNS has built, whether kind of on the global sector or the private sector, or anything that you're comfortable sharing from perspective of here's what makes us great, or here's the types of projects that we've handled that have made a huge impact.
Sure. Our big two flagship public sector projects is the National Vehicle Database in Bangladesh, which is the registration of all the vehicles in the country, all the vehicle tax collections. It also has driving license backend systems, vehicle inspection systems. That's a huge system that we've operated for over a decade, and as the revenue increases for the government have been in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's had a substantial impact actually in funding schools, funding roads, funding hospitals, and that's the kind of work that we really pride ourselves on. We also have a really exciting project with a partner in Costa Rica, our partner Free Balance from Canada, where we're working with them to deliver the integrated financial administration system for the Ministry of Finance there. We're also delivering an ERP in the Ministry of Finance of Bangladesh. In the private sector, we have a whole bunch of different projects going on. We have a really exciting project right now with a company in Toronto, actually, where I currently am, and that's an AI-based project. I can't go into too many details, but it's really the bleeding edge kind of thing, and we're very excited about it.
That's awesome. And I mean, obviously, you and I have talked before, and I'm looking forward to hiring you guys for a big vision that I have. So let's just say that the team completes a project. What are things that you as a VP will do to acknowledge or to celebrate the team, to show them that they did a great job? And what are things that are either the day-to-day things that they get to there as part of building corporate culture? So whether it's perks, whether it's benefits, whether it's learning, what is it that CNS would do to kind of take care of their people?
Sure. So it's a great question. So the first thing is every effort is a team effort. Every success is a team success. So even if someone has not directly worked on a project in my department where the marketing team is and the business development team, even if someone has not directly worked on that project or that win or something like that, the whole team has still contributed, because definitely there was some brochures or a presentation or some documents that we used that at some point everyone has had their hands on and has contributed. So first of all, the first step we take is whenever we win anything, the first message that goes out to everyone is it was a team effort. Congratulations to everyone. In terms of specific rewards, specific perks, I mentioned earlier that the team is very hardworking. If people don't people sometimes have to work late hours, odd hours, stuff like that. We maintain a flexi time system whereby if somebody is working late into office hours, they're able to come in later the following day, or they're able to take that compensation leave, as we call it, off at a time of their choosing. We work very hard to get our staff deployed onto client sites, get real on boots on the ground experience. We have some projects going on and upcoming internationally, and we're looking forward to getting more of our employees out and around the world to have boots on the ground, which is an opportunity that can be difficult, especially given the nature of the software business at the moment. It's very competitive. There's a lot of openings. We also work to make sure that people are recognized. Every year there are 2 bonus periods. I won't go into too much detail about that. It's specific to different people, but there are 2 bonus periods, and there are annual reviews of salaries, so on and so forth as well. And then my favorite, which is something I directly have control of, is that when we have a big success, we make sure that we order pizza for the whole team. And it doesn't matter if I'm here in Toronto or they're there or they're there, we're all having pizza together at different times. Sorry, at the same time, even if we're in different places, just to make sure we keep the team together.
That's awesome. So you mentioned a lot of great things like the flexible hours and the pizza, and obviously the reviews. I think that that's very important. Is there any incentive for your employees to get trained or certified in additional knowledge so that they could kind of be better employees? And does the company kind of pay for that based on the fact that we want to keep you as long as possible?
Yeah, it's a really great question, actually. So we're a CMMI level 5 company. We also hold a bunch of different standards, ISO, so on and so forth. So to maintain those standards, it's actually required that we keep our staff at a certain level of training, and we continue to review that training, expand it. Also, especially in the public sector, the contracts will require us to have certain individuals who hold certain qualifications like PMP, various Oracle certifications, stuff like that. So we work with our employees, especially on the technical side, to make sure that they're taking part in those trainings, doing those trainings, maintaining those standards. And these courses are really varied. They can be from project management to a whole range of specific technical domains. They can be language based. It's really kind of endless, and not just on the software, but a lot of consulting comes in the public sector projects too. So the range is really broad, and it's in our as an organization, on an organizational level, we have to maintain these standards both as an organization and for individual members of staff to actually qualify under procurement rules for the public sector contracts that we submit bids for. So training is very important. Right now, we're going through one of the reviews for one of our big certifications, and we have a whole specific team set up to manage it, work through it, make sure everything's on track and moving the right way. And I would say, as an organization, it's one of our principal activities. If you consider the core human resource activities that a company takes, knowledge, sort of knowledge growth, knowledge management, knowledge expansion, and the standards and certifications that come with that is a core pillar.
Okay, awesome. And so I'm curious now because obviously in the world of tech, there's new acronyms every 3 months that kind of is a variation of the previous acronym a little bit. But do you allow for cross-cultural training? Meaning, for example, somebody's a software developer, but they want to learn Sigma methodologies. Would you then support that, or somebody like you said, because you mentioned project management, you mentioned Oracle, ISO, and so forth. I know that nowadays, especially in the world of, let's say, machine learning, because you did mention that you have some very exciting AI projects, the speed at which AI can kind of do things requires you sometimes to go, oh, there's a new technology that just came out like a month ago or so forth. So we need to have X amount of people. So is it kind of open to everybody, or is it kind of the top performers, or is it kind of a we're going to do these 5 people first and then kind of do a cycle every couple of months or whatever to do that? So if you can expand a little bit.
Yeah, it's really varied. So first of all, it's by no means tied to top performers or to positions, primarily because it's kind of, it's first of all, it's kind of hard to plan and organize a business in that, in my opinion, in that way. If you have someone who's doing a specific role or they're a top performer, it's because they're doing a specific role or they're a top performer in that domain. And unless they want to take their career in a different direction, further training and knowledge expansion that they take part in will be focused on their domain. I mean, activities that I do are focused on the business development domain. However, having said that, we have a lot of people who come into the company from different backgrounds. So a great example is we have someone who's coming from a geography background. They're now working in the software development side, or we have people that are coming from a software side and they've gone into pure consulting. We've got someone who comes from a technical engineering background who's now working in the business development. And our philosophy and approach to that is really, if we conduct interviews with prospective candidates or during the reviews every year, and we have a peer review system and a management review system. If somebody believes that they can go in that direction and there's a project coming up and they've worked well on the previous projects, it's in the organization's interest to take a chance. It's in the organization's interest to go, okay, that person's performed really well. So the project I mentioned in Toronto, the machine learning project, we've brought in a couple of people from the other team onto this team to work on training the AI, because they have worked very well where they currently are. They've shown an interest to take their career in this direction. The current AI team could do with some reinforcement for this project. So it's a good way for us to expand our capabilities while they professionally expand theirs. Again, everything is kind of a win-win situation, especially when you're at such a scale.
I love that you said that it's a win-win situation. So, in order to kind of create, other than people saying, I want to do this or I'm interested or I think I can handle this, do you use any assessments to kind of
Yeah.
measure, the leadership aptitude or the communication aptitude or, some of the um, character skills that might be needed for certain roles? Um,
Yeah, so each department, like I said, every year there's a series of reviews. Each department conducts its reviews slightly different from the other, just because of the different processes that the different departments undertake. We conduct a range of tests. We conduct a range of performance tracking. We conduct interviews, and then we also have peer-to-peer discussions, discussions with the line managers, discussions with the departmental managers, and it actually goes all the way up to the senior management. And the senior management's door is always open. One of our directors, she always tells new people who join them, my door is always open. And I've been there in meetings, even with our managing director, when he's been speaking with team members, even like junior team members who've been in the company a few months, who are working on a project, and he's emphasizing to them, okay, this is an important project. This is important for the company's reputation, especially in some of the foreign government contracts we do. It also carries, some of the national reputation. Um, and it's a very flexible organization on that. So there's this big data collecting exercise that's tailored to each department. The feedback kind of goes up the chain, and then the management very openly discusses, not just with departmental managers and line managers, but sometimes directly with individuals themselves. Okay, you're looking at going this way, you're looking at going that way. We've had it many times where people have left to go and pursue a master's or a PhD and stuff like this. And I've been there where one of the directors or senior management's been having a discussion, wishing them well. And a few years later, they come back because, the door was always open to them. And that's a policy that's for people in the company and outside.
and that's brilliant because I think that speaks a volume to a culture that celebrates its people and allows people to shine where they're a genius. Both as a recruiter and as a business owner, I've often been told I should never be the smartest man in the room because there's an element where I know what my strengths are, and I surround myself with people that are smarter than me or understand things better than me. So when you and I met, when you kind of explained technology, I said, look, I know what I want to create to change, to completely transform the employee experience, right? I don't understand technology. So I can kind of go, here's the recruiting side of it. And then because CNS specialize in it, we Russell was on the show last week, who is part of the LMS doctor, and his ability is to kind of go, here's all the technologies we need to connect, and then we kind of give it to you and go, this is what we need to connect. Now you tell us how to build it because you guys understand that, right? And so I think that's great that there's a recognition of individual talents, and just because you came from one path of life, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're stuck in that path or that you have to follow fast. And in fact, I want to circle back to you because I know when I initially met you, you kind of, it was very obvious how very analytical you are, which, given that you're in sales, usually sales are more big picture rather than the detailed analytic. And you kind of mentioned to me that in this particular case, it actually works better for you. So tell me a little bit about how your analytical
Yeah.
skills helps you, let's say, do the government contracts or the World Bank contracts that you mentioned earlier, or
Mm.
some of the public sector, because as a sales guy, my role is like, okay, I'm building the relationship with you. I want the sale, but obviously, as you're building technology, I think there's a very important element of your analytical side. So, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mentioned, I'd had some background with the public sector prior to this role, and the company's background is the public sector. The majority of the business is the public sector, the core contracts are public sector. So when you compare the big picture approach, the analytical approach, I think the reason we find the analytical approach better and why we have that difference is because we are coming from a public sector mentality to the private sector. And it's a family owned business. So when it comes to commercial terms, timelines, how we're going to do it, we retain a huge amount of flexibility. But the approach gives us a great deal of strength, especially with our clients. So when a government wants to acquire a project, whether it's funded by a donor agency like the World Bank or by their own funds, they will publish a huge document which contains all of what the requirements that they're looking for. They're looking for this, they're looking for that, etc., etc. And we have to put together a mammoth proposal, frankly, detailing how we'll meet every single component. And those proposals can run in the hundreds of pages, if not more. And that takes a team. We have a team of around 15 to 20 people, depending on the day of the week, who are working exclusively on answering those proposals. The scope of them is huge. Now, when you come to the private sector and you sit down with someone, so we have a great client here in Toronto, another client, they have a business that's 11 years old, and they wanted to digitalize basically their booking process and their billing process and all this kind of stuff. Why? Because the business had grown and grown. It was now transcontinental, but they're getting bogged down in details of managing this and managing that, and they're losing time they don't need to lose. So we basically sat, me and my colleague here at our Toronto office, we were able to put together a detailed understanding of their requirements. We gave them a proposal on like, right, if we build this, 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 and this, based on our understanding of your situation, it's going to lead to these outcomes. So before they've even purchased or signed a contract to purchase the software, they're getting in front of them a detailed proposal based on our understanding of their business, what we can leverage and what the targeted outcomes of leveraging that technology will be. And that approach for them is great because the big picture way just is like, oh, we say it's a great idea, we're going to build this thing and it's going to be great and you're going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's very wishy-washy. But if you sit there and you have a document in front of you, and these documents are not hundreds of pages to the private sector, no one in the private sector has time to read that. But these documents are detailed as they need to be, and it shows a clear, strong breakdown of what is your requirements, what do you want to do, what do you want to achieve, functional requirements. They can go, right, yeah, that is my business case. Yeah, actually, I can see specifically how that sub-feature of that module will save me 15 hours a week, 10 hours a week, or the team 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week. Okay, if I do the maths, that translates into X number of dollars saved. Okay, great. Over a year, that's X thousands of dollars saved. So they can see the ROI. Anyone, who's running a business knows how to calculate the ROI on anything they spend. So they can sit there and immediately understand the ROI, and you're not having to sell them a dream. You're selling them cold, specific numbers. that they can understand because it's rooted in their own business case. And that, to me, especially as we build on deliverable basis, so we build and then we raise the invoice, so they're able not just to see the idea in writing in an analytical concentrated approach, but they're able to implement the system, see that the system works before they're having to cash out. Really, for us, cements the sales process.
Look, and it's very interesting that you say, like, when I speak to new clients for my recruiting services, my culture services, you know, when they have typical conversations with recruiter, it's like, okay, here's the fee. I'm going to send you some candidates. I I'm very specific to kind of go, okay, look, before you hire me, what are the problems? What are the things that you're facing? Why aren't you hiring anybody on your own? I mean, you clearly have an internal HR team. So what's missing, or what are the variables that no one's hitting for you as a recruiter? And I make sure that they understand that as part of my process, I generally work in a flow where I'll never send more than, let's say, 8 people in the first round. I usually send two or three that have all the technical skills that they're looking for, very little of the personality, two or three that have some of the technical and some of the personality or character skills that they're looking for in terms of building a corporate culture, and two that have exactly what they're looking for in terms of personality and character, but are potentially more junior and don't have as much technical skills. And if I haven't hit the bullseye in the first kind of go about it, based on the feedback from both the company and the candidates, I hone in exactly on what's the gaps in the conversation. And I think that for me, even though I'm a big picture person, like you, again, not necessarily in a 200-page proposal, but I kind of go, here's what you'll get, here's what you can expect, here's how I'm going to communicate with. So if you say, I prefer that you email me rather than call me, for example, then I will honor that and kind of follow the guidelines of what you like. And I think that that's very interesting that you mentioned that, because, you know, um, while we were speaking, somebody connected with me on LinkedIn because the show is live on LinkedIn. And as soon as I said yes to the connection, they were like, "Hi, Ryan, would you like our marketing services?" And I'm like, if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, the name is not Ryan, kind of thing. Right. So I was
Yes,
like,
the one size fits all.
yeah, and
Not.
it's amazing to me the amount of, you know, I'm a coach right now instantly, and I can do this. And in your case, because there's that level of accountability, because there's that level of in depth, you're also confident that you're delivering everything you want because there's so. Based on the conversation like that, what would you say is the percentage of change that occurs after, let's say, a client says, okay, let's sign up or let's do this? I mean, there's always going to be small changes because as you're doing things, you're always like, oh, can we add this or can we do this? That's kind of a feature or an option. But on a kind of scale wise, given how in depth your functionality and outline of everything is, what would you say is the percentage of like big changes kind of thing? I'm not talking like, can we add this feature? Can we add a small thing here? But I'm talking about like, you know what, I changed my mind. I want to go in this direction kind of thing. How often does that happen?
Yeah. So it's an interesting question again, and it varies public sector to private sector. Public sector is very formal if they want to. We were implementing an ERP for a government ministry. They wanted to add 2 additional modules that were not in the original proposal. There was a discussion, there was a requirement gathering, there was a price. Much different from the private sector. The private sector, both the public and private sector, we only pursue projects that we believe in. That's the first point, because again, our model is we'll build it and then we'll raise the invoice. So we have to believe in the people, we have to believe in what they're doing. Most people come with a vision, not a technical architecture, or they come with a business and there's a case where, okay, by doing this differently in your business, by putting in this software, by connecting these softwares, your business is going to be able to save so many hours, so much money per year, and that's going to translate into earnings. So in those cases, the number of changes that come are normally what we would call non-functional changes, or they are things that are limited to UI UX design. So we have a, as we go through the building of a system, we have open discussions with our client about the design. We show them different design styles that the teams come up with, different interfaces, and we have an endless feedback loop of, okay, they like this color, they don't like that color. That's where the most changes come in, where the most differences come in, where things get reworked and backwards and forwards. But a lot of that doesn't change core technical infrastructure. And if someone comes along halfway through and goes, actually, you're talking in the case of recruiting and building a if you wanted to build a recruiting platform and you wanted to change these items, or a HR system, you wanted to change these items, and then you halfway through, a lot of that is dashboards and different things. So it's something that you can be technically flexible with. And how we build our technical infrastructure, not to get too technical, is to make it open for future expansion, future development, future integration. So it's something that you mitigate through the technical approach and also the choice of client to make, because the client knows what they want.
Well, there you go. Clarity and clear communication. I think that's the key. We have about 5 minutes. Matthew, I want to
Sure.
give you kind of a final chance to kind of reinforce what CNS does and the offerings in private sector for anybody that's listening that might want to reach out and hire you as a service. So, kind of give us a background of the level of aptitude of technical without obviously too much details, but like, some of the languages that you code in, you know, machine learning, quality control, and just any final thoughts for people in terms of career progression and, finding a great company to work for.
Sure. I'll do those questions in order because I think that finding a great company and great people to work for is important. So first off, about us, like I say, we build softwares around the world. We've done it for decades in all sorts of environments. We sit with our clients. We understand their requirements. We give them a proposal. We sign the contract. We start work. We meet the deliverables. So you know that you're going to get what we're building. You don't pay for lunch in a good restaurant upfront. You pay after you've eaten, and that's our approach to the private sector, and that's grounded in our public sector background and public sector philosophy. We have technical engineers working across more than 20 domains: Java, Laravel, Angular, PHP, you name it. We have people working there. We have our own in-house data center, which is equivalent to tier 4 standards. We have our own development facility, which is a 14-story reinforced tower. It's got development floors. It can house more than 1,200 developers at full capacity, fully owned by us, purpose built to deliver software for people around the world. And that gives us our core commercial flexibility as well. And we have on-site teams here in Canada that give support across the US and Canada as well to our clients. Final thoughts on the theme of today and on finding a great company to work for. I would say it's all about leadership. Leadership of a company really sets the culture, really sets the behavior. In CNS, I think we're very fortunate to have the excellent qualities in our managing director. He's a man who's grown the company from a front room in a Dakar apartment to a multinational software provider to governments and the private sector. People's doors are open, people are listening. If you join a company where people are able to give feedback without fear, that's a great company. A lot of places, I've worked places before where people have been scared to give feedback, or people have been scared to give critical of approach, where it's been very hierarchical. And I think that's a lose-lose for everyone. But
Absolutely
win-win
agree
is
with you. Open door policy, feedback, clear vision from a leadership that's communicated is huge. And thank you again for coming on today and sharing your
my pleasure.
wisdom and expertise. And again, I just want to wrap up that I want to show you that, I've brought in experts in owning a gym and fitness. I've brought in experts on learning management. I've brought an expert in IT. I've brought a business owner that owns an accounting firm. And although there are slight variations between one culture and the next and one organization and the next, if you're listening to the shows, you'll notice that there's a pattern where there's always a desire to serve and to take care of your people. When you understand the importance that your people are happy, they will produce more. It's not about paying them the high salary. It's about understanding that we are humans and the human experience. Sometimes people make mistakes, but when there is an opportunity to go, have you learned something? Anything is possible. Thank you again, Matthew, for
Thank you,
joining us.
Joe.
And for those of you who missed, Matthew is the VP of CNS. Feel free to email Matthew at cnsbd.com if you have any questions, if you are interested in discussing how CNS can build a great software for you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for listening. Have a great night, a good morning, and a good afternoon. Good night, everyone.
The last few days have been really amazing. I had a trainer course from the British School of Etiquette.
And I must say it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made and one of the best investments I've made in my own training and development.
Now, words alone will not describe the transformation and the positive path that I have traveled with the British School of Etiquette.
I found I learned a lot from the lessons this time I came.
The last few days with the British School of Etiquette have been fantastic.
And what I've learned now is really beyond my expectations.
This is the most rewarding experience and the best investment I have made this year.
It was just great. I learned so much, and when I go back to Belgium I will incorporate a lot of it into my day-to-day life and business.
It's been absolutely wonderful for the whole week that we were here.
I feel transformed, and I feel like blowing a trumpet and tell people, come and do this school, this class is the best, this is the best school ever.
You should take it. It's just, it will change your life immediately.
I am now able to teach other people how to bring the best of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, BSC.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.